All right, welcome to week 2 for English 123. We're going to be moving on to a new topic for this week, research. Lots of research. Just a disclaimer, be careful with your time with research. It's very easy to burn up a lot of time and not get much results. As you're going through these databases, as you're trying to find sources for your paper, be very mindful of your time. Be aware of, you know, if you're progressing and finding what you need, you can spend hours reading through sources that you perhaps maybe not end up using. They turn out to not be usable or not quite exactly what you need to support your argument. So just a warning in a sense, a disclaimer. Just be careful of time. If you find that you're getting overwhelmed in the research process and finding sources, which is very easy, don't hesitate to reach out to a librarian. They are there to help you find what you need, or to at least point you into the direction of where to find what you need. They won't necessarily uh, give you the exact article, because there's thousands of articles that are in the databases for the library. So, but they can at least point you in the right direction as far as how to find what you need. And that sometimes is all that's necessary, because once they tell you where to find it, or where to look, or how to search it out, you end up finding what you need. It's very useful, very helpful to consult with them. Uh, if if you need help, definitely let me know, of course, and I can hopefully provide you this feedback. But if something that maybe I don't know, or I'm not really certain of course I'll refer you to the library. So that's always an option. So don't panic if you feel you're at that point where, I can't find anything, I don't know where to look. Sometimes this takes a different approach or different strategy depending on your search terms, or depending on your date range, or depending on what database you're in, if it relates to your particular topic. So again, reach out to the library or to me and get help. Don't just try to figure it out yourself. Um, Also, so I don't want to completely forget what we've discussed prior. We're going to be building on that, of course. So for last week, just to recap, you should be at this point, you should have at least a subject and a claim that's going to be made for that subject. That was the purpose of our journal, our pre-writing journal that we worked on for week 1. So hopefully you have a subject and a claim to make about that subject. Uh, an example of that would be gun control as the subject. This is something I see come up often in this class. Gun control, and then maybe a claim that can be made about that is one's right to open carry with the proper permit. Okay, the right to open carry with the proper permit would be the argument or the claim. And that's just a rough preliminary subject and claim. We would refine that. We would provide more detail to that, of course. So that's okay if you don't have that as of yet. If you don't have a formalized thesis statement, you're not behind. Okay, as long as you have the subject and the claim, and you know where you're going to go with that, that's good. The actual thesis statement will be more finalized by week 4 in the proposal. So what the subject and the claim we're going to build upon, because you need that for research. You need to know what to research and where to go. So now we're going to move into actually trying to find sources to evidence to support your claim that you're wanting to make. So it goes. I would say it's probably worth noting, and I would argue that research is probably going to be one of the most important academic skills that you can learn as it coincides with writing. So as you know, this course is academic writing and research. They go together. So writing and research are fundamental academic activities. They are part of the foundation of what we do in academic work. So really, what do we need in terms of research? Where do we go to find it? Who is doing the research? Who are we quoting, per se, or Who are we using to support our argument? Well, really, the research is, of course, conducted by scholars, academic scholars who are typically PhD professors from all sorts of different types of universities. To some degree or another, conduct research and publish. Generally speaking, for most PhDs that are out there in the university system, and it's all of its various forms, they are conducting some type of research. They are hopefully publishing in some type of way. And those published, that published research is then utilized by lower graduate students, say for a master's program, and even further down into undergraduate for actual support and evidences for research papers that we do here. So it's kind of a trickle down. It starts in the higher levels of academia with the PhDs and then trickles down through the academy to us. Some things become firmly established as research that's just accepted throughout the academy. Some research in different areas are more controversial, but generally speaking, that's the way it works. It just kind of trickles down, and then we utilize that research in our papers. So the research that you're going to be finding in the databases in the library or books in the library or whichever library that's local to you, if you're not local to CBU, is going to be written by PhD professors, scholars from typically research universities, research centers, research organizations. Those are the highest levels in academia. I think it's worth providing a working definition of what we're talking about in terms of research. What does that mean? It's a word that gets thrown around in a class like this. So I want to have a definition just for us to kind of work off of. So the Oxford English Dictionary defines research as a systematic investigation or inquiry aimed at contributing to knowledge of a theory, topic, by careful consideration, observation, or study of a subject. So it's studying a subject, it's giving careful consideration to a subject, to a theory, to a topic, for the purposes of contributing to the knowledge of that subject and that topic and that theory. So that is the function really of PhD research, scholarly research. They're in a sense creating knowledge in a way. They're expanding knowledge. They're going out into the frontier, if you put it that way, of research and finding and discovering new things, coming up with new ideas and new theories. They are the experts. They're at the highest levels of the academy, so they are looked to for that expertise, really. But is that necessarily the role that we have here in this class? No. We are not discovering new information. We're not creating new theories and new ideas about subjects and topics and doing new studies. That's not what we're doing in this class. We're utilizing that information that they have worked on, that they have provided, and then using that to support our arguments. So they're doing the research, and then we are utilizing that for our purposes. So it could be looked at as a different definition, in a way, of research, maybe even a different spelling. For us, it would be more searching again, searching through their research to find the sources we need and the evidence that we need to support our claim. So it would be almost like a researching in terms of searching again. I hope I'm making that distinction clear. So we have two different roles. The PhD scholars, they do their role. We do our role by utilizing the information that they've created and provided. So your role now is to go out and search through that research, find it, find what's appropriate, find what works, and then utilize that to support your claim. And it's important to know that distinction, because I think sometimes there can be the idea that, oh no, I'm supposed to think up some kind of new theory or something. No, you're working with existing information. So We are just searching again through what they've already established. So then the question is then, what is good research? What is the research that we need to be using in this class to support what we're arguing? Well, good research, of course, as I said, is scholarly. It is essentially, and this is what you want to look for, peer-reviewed articles. Peer-reviewed means that it is reviewed by a committee. Typically what will happen is a researcher will write their findings or write their reports. They will submit it to a research committee, and then that research committee will then review it and then approve it, concur, agree with it, and then publish it as something officially from that particular institution. So we want peer-reviewed, a committee-reviewed article because it is regarded as the highest quality of research. So the reason being is if, for instance, if there is an individual PhD out there that decides that they're going to self-publish, they're going to, publish their own book or publish their own articles, though it wouldn't necessarily be discredited, it would not be looked at necessarily with the same reputation, the same pedigree, the same credibility as a peer-reviewed committee. Unless, of course, they are someone who already has established themselves at the highest level, with the highest reputation, with the highest pedigree. So, there are those out there in the highest levels of, exclusive, researchers that are out there that could potentially publish on their own independently, but it's very rare, very rare. And typically sometimes it can become controversial because they've had to go outside the normal channels of publishing to present their work. It's just generally speaking, it's not that all the time it's that way, but generally speaking, the committee peer-reviewed system is what establishes that credibility and provides a kind of a check and balance to prevent something that really isn't necessarily researched well or researched with integrity and honestly, perhaps. Because really, these researchers are not necessarily infallible. It's not that we just take for granted that everything we read is reputable and is honest. I mean, there are instances out there where information is falsified, information is plagiarized, and so that does happen, unfortunately. I mean, it's not prevalent, but it can happen. There are certain theories out there that have become, established that perhaps maybe we wouldn't agree with from our Christian worldview. One that I can think of is, the theory of evolution. It is pretty much entrenched in secular universities, where that is just the foundation of what they believe and what they think. So you don't necessarily have to believe everything they say. Not everything is infallible. You can certainly disagree with what you're reading. It's not that these PhDs are absolutely correct every single time, and their intentions are absolutely pure. That's not in any way what we want to imply. But for the purposes of academic research, that's what we look for, is peer-reviewed articles. But again, I want to encourage you to be critical of what you read. Don't necessarily believe everything, of course. If it doesn't seem right, if it conflicts with what you believe, maybe there's another source out there that you can use instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this video here just for the sake of time, and then we'll pick it up in another video. But yeah, so if we just kind of recap, research, we're looking at articles, we're looking for support for our claim and our subject that we're dealing with, and we're going to talk about more of kind of how to do that in the next video. Okay, all right, be back in just a moment.